Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to this episode of Algae Corner with me, Dr. West Bishop. We have a very neat topic today talking about the importance of algae in a healthy fisheries program. Now, most people love to have those big fish in their pond, the big bass or bluegill or trout, and many people love to try to grow those big fish in their pond. And algae are very critical components of those aquatic ecosystems. Now, there's some algae that are very good for the system that can help you, grow those big fish, help you have a nice, healthy aquatic ecosystem, but there are some very bad types of algae as well. Some algae that aren't good for the system that can really harm those fish and not support them in a healthy ecosystem. So what we want to cover today is some of the reasons why one type of algae in particular, those cyanobacteria or blue-green algae, are not good for a system, why you don't want to have them, and how we can actually select away from them in those aquatic systems. Now, if you recall, algae are the base of this food web, this food chain, if you will. The invertebrates love to eat them, the zooplankton, the small invertebrates and crustaceans out there, and then the small fish eat them and you grow your big fish. So, that base of the food chain with the algae, very important to understand. This is truly the definition of productivity, this bottom-up effect through the food chain. Now, a lot of people have realized this and actually cause them to fertilize their ponds. So they add fertilizer trying to grow more algae to ultimately grow bigger fish. Now that can work, and it has worked in some situations, but it can be very risky too. So you need to understand your background water chemistries, what nutrients you already have out there, what type of fertilizer you're adding, what's it going to relate to in terms of the availability of those nutrients in your pond system and the ratio of those nutrients in your pond system. So all those are very critical things to ask and understand your background water chemistry before you go and add a fertilizer. Because lots of times you're just playing Russian roulette out there. You may get lucky and you may grow those good types of algae and it works and it goes through the system. But a lot of times, unfortunately, these fertilizer programs are actually selecting for nuisance types of algae, or selecting for those cyanobacteria in particular that are not good for a system, that don't move up the food chain. So what we're specifically going to cover today is three main areas on why cyanobacteria are not good for a healthy fisheries program. Now, the first is food chain impacts. Next is toxin production, and last we're going to talk about habitat alterations. So what I mean by food chain impacts, to jump into this first one here, is these cyanobacteria form big thick mats and colonies and mucilage, and very difficult to move up the food chain. So invertebrates and zooplankton have a hard time even consuming these guys. They'll sit up, they'll form that scum on the surface, and the zooplankton can't even access them. So they're not good for that food chain, they're not good for productivity and moving those nutrients up to grow big fish. Some neat examples here is Daphnia. They can selectively graze on those green algae, those good types of algae, and actually just avoid or spit back out the microcystis. Same thing with zebra mussels. They reject this toxic cyanobacteria. Even grass carp don't like to eat Lingbia, for example. Smells bad, tastes bad, the toxin production. So these nuisance cyanobacteria are not good for the food chain. Additionally, if they are able to be consumed, some of them are very difficult to be digested. With that mucilage again, or these protective layers, some can not be good to be digested, nutrient poor for a lot of zooplankton, and also the toxins can potentially be released if they get into these zooplankton, and that can cause a lot of different issues from lack of reproduction to protein inhibition. So just not good, and that gets us into that second stage, that toxin production. So it can have those direct effects on the zooplankton and invertebrates, just preventing them from being happy and healthy and growing and reproducing, but it can additionally have toxic effects directly to your fish. So some of the biggest reasons that these cyanobacteria and cyanotoxins can impact fish include fish embryo lethality or endocrine disruption in the fish. They can impact the immune function of the juvenile fish. In particular, they can damage gonad tissue, cause liver dysfunction. So, just having these cyanobacteria and the ability to produce these cyanotoxins, not good for the invertebrates, and certainly not good directly being exposed to your fish to have a healthy fishery system. All right. The last category here is habitat alterations. Now, what I mean by that is these cyanobacteria can grow so big and so thick they can really just clog up a lot of areas for spawning. For example, they can cover these fish beds, clog up these areas. They can block sunlight, so forming those mats and scums on the surface can prevent other beneficial types of algae from growing. They can also prevent native plants from growing. Those can be critical habitat for fish to grow in, small fish to hide in, and large fish to use as, ambushing of the small fish. So altering that habitat, selecting away from those good species is something cyanobacteria can do on the habitat side of things, as well as changing the water chemistry. So they can cause these crazy swings in dissolved oxygen, so it can go really anaerobic below those scums and mats and have a hard time for those fish to breathe. Also, just with that growth cycle of the cyanobacteria, they can cause these wild swings in pH as well as dissolved oxygen throughout the day, just in their growth processes. So those dynamic conditions can really stress out a lot of different types of fish and really be harmful to many types of fish. So remember, just because your pond looks green or just because you put some fertilizer out there and think you grew some types of algae doesn't mean it's the right type. There's very good types of algae for that system, good types that move up the food chain, grow those big fish, and then very bad types like those cyanobacteria we covered today that can impact those fish very negatively in many different ways, both directly and indirectly. So to recap, specifically we covered today is 3 main reasons why cyanobacteria are not good for a healthy fishery program. First, those food chain impacts. They don't move up the food chain, don't allow those nutrients to go and grow big fish. Next is that toxin production, so those can directly impact both the invertebrates and the fish themselves, certainly the young fish in particular. And last, those habitat alterations, just clogging things up, not allowing the beneficial algae and plants to grow. Thank you for tuning into this episode on importance of algae in a healthy fishery system. If you need help understanding your background water chemistry in your pond or lake out there, we can certainly help with that. Check out our laboratory services videos here to learn more. Or if you want to directly control or mitigate those nuisance cyanobacteria out in your site, we can help with that too. So visit cpro.com to learn more, and thank you again for your time today.